Hello and welcome to Explore with Ouzi. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on our weekly deep dives into fascinating and sometimes, let's face it, deeply depressing corners of the world. Now, if you're picturing Europe, you might be thinking cobblestone streets, charming cafes, and a delightful lack of casual gun violence. And while Europe certainly has its charms, today we're lifting the rug on a deeply ingrained issue: racism against black people in Europe. Because, and here's a fun fact you can use to impress or horrify your friends, experiencing a different culture doesn't magically erase deeply held prejudices. And to be clear, we're not just talking about a few bad apples here, we're talking about systemic, pervasive racism that affects the lives of millions, so buckle up, because it's about to get real. And by real, I mean really quite depressing. First up on our European tour of disappointment is Germany. A country perhaps best known for its efficiency, its beer, and sadly, for a significant portion of its population, its deeply ingrained racism. A shocking 43% of black people in Germany report experiencing racial harassment. Now I know what you're thinking. 43%? Germany, the land of David Hasselhoff fandom, it can't be true. But sadly, my friends, it is. We're talking everything from verbal abuse and discrimination in housing and employment to actual physical violence. And look, I'm not saying you can't enjoy a good schnitzel in Germany, but maybe hold the sauerkraut on the blind optimism, alright? Next, we waltz our way south to Austria, a country that gave us Mozart, beautiful mountains, and, sadly, a racism problem that's far too persistent to ignore. 41% of black people in Austria report experiencing racial harassment, a statistic that's about as harmonious as a tone-deaf yodeler. And look, this isn't just about a few isolated incidents, we're talking about a deeply rooted issue that permeates Austrian society, so the next time you're tempted to book that ski trip to the Alps, maybe pack a little extra awareness along with your long underwear. Ah, the United Kingdom, a nation built on tea colonialism and the unshakable belief that their cuisine is somehow superior to literally everyone else's. But let's not get sidetracked by their culinary delusions. We're here to talk about racism, and unfortunately the UK has a lot to answer for. A depressing 38% of black people in the UK report experiencing racial harassment, which, frankly, isn't that surprising when you consider their history of, well, colonizing half the planet. From casual microaggressions to outright discrimination, racism is sadly alive and well in the land of Big Ben and even bigger delusions of past grandeur. Chapter 4, France, Liberté, égalité, fraternité, unless you're black. Bonjour from France, the land of romance, croissants, and a deeply ingrained sense of superiority that frankly even their delightful pastries can't excuse. Because while they love to boast about their commitment to liberty, equality, and fraternity, those ideals seem to get a little lost in translation when it comes to race relations. A sobering 35% of black people in France report experiencing racial harassment, proving that even the most romantic city in the world can harbor some pretty ugly prejudices. Chapter 5, Italy, from Roman Empire to romancing racism. Next, we're off to Italy, a country known for its stunning architecture, delicious pasta, and a history of racism that's as long as a plate of never-ending spaghetti. 34% of black people in Italy report experiencing racial harassment, which, frankly, isn't exactly breaking news in a country that once elected Silvio Berlusconi, a man whose spray tan was perhaps the least offensive thing about him. From everyday discrimination to the disturbing rise of far-right groups, Italy's struggle with racism is as undeniable as its love of carbs. Chapter 6, Belgium, waffles, chocolate, and a side of racism. Belgium, home to delicious waffles, exquisite chocolate, and unfortunately, a significant racism problem. 32% of black people in Belgium report experiencing racial harassment, proving that even a country famous for its sweet treats can have a bitter aftertaste. And let's not forget Belgium's colonial past in the Congo, which, spoiler alert, wasn't exactly a shining example of racial harmony. Chapter 7, the Netherlands, land of tulips, windmills, and a liberal reputation that frankly deserves a closer look. Because while they might be progressive on issues like weed and prostitution, when it comes to race, they've still got some work to do. 31% of black people in the Netherlands report experiencing racial harassment, which, let's be honest, isn't exactly a glowing endorsement of their much-touted tolerance. And let's not even get started on Zwarte Piet, Google it, or better yet, don't. Some things are better left unseen. Chapter 8. Sweden, land of sleek design ABBA, and a deep-seated belief that they're a bastion of social justice. Well, here's a reality check. Sweden, 29% of black people living in your pristine, egalitarian paradise report experiencing racial harassment. Turns out, even a country obsessed with hygge can harbor some pretty uncozy attitudes towards minorities. So the next time you're tempted to book that Scandinavian getaway, maybe pack a copy of How to Be an Anti-Racist along with your Swedish phrasebook. Chapter 9. Denmark, often touted as the happiest country on earth, has a dark side. It seems their famous pastries and hygge lifestyle don't quite reach everyone equally. A concerning 28% of black people in Denmark report experiencing racial harassment, shattering the illusion of a perfectly content society. Turns out, even in a country known for its social safety net, racism finds a way to slip through the cracks, leaving many feeling excluded and unsafe. Chapter 10. Poland, Pierogi and Prejudice. Poland, known for its delicious pierogi, rich history, and unfortunately, a growing trend of intolerance. It seems embracing diversity isn't exactly their strong suit, with 27% of black people in Poland reporting experiencing racial harassment. It's a harsh reminder that even in a country that's faced its own share of hardship, xenophobia and prejudice can still take root and flourish. Chapter 11. Spain, Siestas, and sadly, still some racism. Spain, land of sun, siestas, and a history of colonialism that's, well, let's just say it's not exactly something to brag about. And while they might like to think they're above the kind of blatant racism you see in other parts of the world, the reality is 25% of black people in Spain report experiencing racial harassment. So the next time you're tempted to order another round of tapas and sangria, maybe take a moment to acknowledge the less savory aspects of Spanish culture. Chapter 12. Portugal, Fado music and fading tolerance. Portugal, a country known for its beautiful beaches, melancholic Fado music, and sadly, a persistent undercurrent of racism. While they might not make headlines as often as some of their European counterparts, the reality is, 24% of black people in Portugal report experiencing racial harassment. It's a stark reminder that even in a country known for its laid-back vibe, racism continues to cast a long shadow. Greece, the cradle of Western civilization, home to stunning ancient ruins, delicious cuisine, and unfortunately, a persistent problem with racism. It seems that while they may excel at preserving their historical legacy, they haven't quite mastered the art of inclusivity. 23% of black people in Greece report experiencing racial harassment, a sobering reminder that even in a country with such a rich and storied past, prejudice continues to rear its ugly head. Czech Republic, famous for its stunning castles, delicious beer, and sadly, a growing problem with racism. 22% of black people in the Czech Republic report experiencing racial harassment, proving that even in a country known for its fairy tale charm, prejudice can still lurk in the shadows. It's a stark reminder that racism knows no borders, and that even in seemingly idyllic destinations, the fight for equality is far from over. Last but certainly not least, we arrive in Hungary, a country known for its hearty goulash, stunning architecture, and sadly, a government that's become synonymous with intolerance. 21% of black people in Hungary report experiencing racial harassment, and frankly, that number is probably lowballing it considering the current political climate. From discriminatory policies to the rise of far-right extremism, Hungary is a stark reminder that the fight against racism is far from over even in the 21st century. So there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of racism in Europe. Now, before you start drafting angry comments about how I'm being unfair to Europe or how I'm just trying to stir up trouble, let me just say this. These statistics aren't meant to shame entire nations, they're a call to action. Remember, racism exists in various forms and degrees across Europe. These rankings are based on reported experiences and should not be taken as a comprehensive assessment. Thank you for watching Explore with Ouzi. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content on social justice and human rights.